The White House isn't just a house, it's a fortress hiding secrets. British soldiers burned it down, ghosts walk the halls at night, and there's a bunker that could survive a nuclear war. These are 20 weird facts about the White House, and the bonus? Let's just say what's underneath is bigger than what you see above. Step inside. This tour gets classified fast. British soldiers burned it down. On August 24, 1814, British soldiers marched into Washington, D.C. and set fire to the White House. They were getting revenge for Americans burning down buildings in Canada during the war between the nations. First Lady Dolly Madison was still inside packing up important items as the British approached the city. She refused to leave until workers saved the famous painting of George Washington from the walls. The British soldiers actually sat down and ate the dinner that was prepared for President James Madison. They drank his wine, stuffed food in their mouths, then threw torches everywhere to start the fire. The flames were so huge that people saw the orange glow from miles away across the countryside. Only the outside stone walls survived because a massive thunderstorm rolled in and put out the fire. Rain poured down and saved the building from being completely destroyed to ashes and rubble. It's sinking into the ground. The White House is slowly sinking into the ground at a rate engineers can't stop completely. The building was constructed on soft clay soil near the Potomac River that shifts and settles. Over 200 years, the building has sunk several inches into the ground unevenly in different places. During Harry Truman's presidency in 1948, engineers discovered the building was about to collapse from structural damage. Truman moved out and lived across the street in Blair House for 4 years during Reconstruction. Workers completely gutted the inside and built a new steel frame to hold up the walls. They dug a new basement and reinforced the foundation with concrete and steel beams underground. The renovation cost $5.7 million, which was an enormous amount of money back in 1952. Engineers installed instruments that measure if the building is sinking or shifting even today constantly. The ground underneath continues to settle slowly, requiring constant monitoring and maintenance to keep it safe. A swimming pool is inside. President Gerald Ford installed an indoor swimming pool in the White House in 1975 for exercise. It's located in the ground floor of the main residence between the east and west wings. The pool is 20 feet wide and 50 feet long with heating and filtration systems. Franklin Roosevelt actually had the first White House pool built in 1933 in the West Wing. He needed it for physical therapy because polio had paralyzed his legs when he was younger. Roosevelt swam almost every single day to keep his muscles strong and help him walk short distances. President Nixon covered up Roosevelt's pool in 1969 and turned it into the press briefing room. Reporters stand right on top of the old pool every day without knowing what's underneath them. Ford loved swimming laps and convinced Congress to pay for the new indoor pool for his health. Presidents and their families have used it for exercise, parties, and teaching kids to swim safely. Has a secret underground bunker. There's a massive underground bunker beneath the White House called the Presidential Emergency Operations Center, or PEOC. It was built during World War II in 1942 to protect President Franklin Roosevelt from German bombs. The bunker can survive a direct nuclear bomb blast and keep the president alive for months. It has several feet of reinforced concrete and steel protecting it from any attack from above. Inside, there are conference rooms, communications equipment, beds, bathrooms, and a full kitchen with food supplies. The air filtration system removes nuclear radiation, chemical weapons, and biological attacks from outside air. Vice President Dick Cheney spent most of September 11, 2001 in the bunker during the terrorist attacks. The bunker connects to underground tunnels that lead to other secure buildings around Washington, D.C. Presidents can evacuate through the tunnels without ever going outside where they'd be vulnerable to attack. The exact size and capabilities are classified top secret information that the government won't discuss publicly. It wasn't always white. The White House wasn't actually white when it was first built back in 1800. The original building was made of gray sandstone that came from a quarry in Virginia. It looked dull and plain without any paint covering the stone at all. Workers didn't paint it white until after the British burned it down in 1814 during the War of 1812. The fire destroyed most of the inside and turned the outside walls completely black with smoke and soot. Architect James Hoban rebuilt it and painted everything white to cover up all the burn marks. Some people think they painted it white to hide the damage, but that's only partly true actually. The white paint also protected the soft sandstone from rain and weather that slowly ate away the stone. President James Madison moved back in during 1817 after 3 years of massive reconstruction work. The nickname White House didn't become official until President Theodore Roosevelt made it the formal name in 1901. Has 132 rooms inside. The White House has 132 rooms spread across 6 different floors from the basement to the roof. That includes 35 bathrooms, which is more toilets than most hotels have on a single floor. There are 412 doors throughout the building, connecting all the different rooms and hallways together. Workers installed 147 windows that need to be cleaned constantly to keep them sparkling clear. The building has 28 fireplaces, though most of them don't get used anymore for actual fires. There are 3 elevators that carry people and one that's only for moving food from the kitchen. The total floor space inside is 55,000 square feet, which is bigger than most shopping malls. President Thomas Jefferson actually opened the house for public tours back in 1805 without any security. Today, over 1.5 million people tour the White House every single year from around the world. The resident staff includes 96 full-time workers who clean, cook, and maintain everything daily. There's a bowling alley hidden. President Harry Truman had a bowling alley installed in the White House basement in 1947. It was a birthday gift from friends who knew he loved bowling as a hobby. The 2-lane alley sits in the ground floor of the West Wing underneath the driveway. President Richard Nixon was a huge bowler and used it all the time to relax after stressful days. He even installed an automatic pin setter in 1969 to make it more modern and easier to use. The bowling alley has proper wooden lanes, ball returns, and scoring systems just like a regular alley. Presidents and staff members have bowled thousands of games down there over the past 75 years. President Barack Obama bowled a 129 during his first game there in 2009, which he wasn't proud of. The bowling alley is decorated with photos of presidents bowling and having fun with their families. First families often use it for birthday parties and casual gatherings with friends who visit. No, Lincoln's ghost haunts the building. President Abraham Lincoln's ghost has been seen by dozens of people in the White House since 1865. First Lady Grace Coolidge was the first to report seeing Lincoln's ghost in the 1920s standing by a window. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands heard knocking on her bedroom door at night in 1942 during World War II. She opened the door and saw Lincoln standing there in his top hat staring at her silently. She fainted immediately and woke up later thinking it was just a nightmare or bad dream. Winston Churchill claimed he saw Lincoln's ghost after taking a bath and climbing out naked. He said, "Good evening, Mr. President," to the ghost, and it smiled and disappeared into thin air. President Dwight Eisenhower's press secretary saw Lincoln sitting on a bed pulling on his boots. The Lincoln bedroom is considered the most haunted room in the entire White House building. Workers and Secret Service agents refuse to enter certain rooms alone at night because of strange noises. Some hear footsteps, knocking, and voices when nobody else is around in the hallways, used to be open to everyone. In the early 1800s, anyone could walk into the White House without security or appointments at all. President Thomas Jefferson believed the people's house should be open to all citizens whenever they wanted. People walked in off the street, wandered around, and sometimes stole items as souvenirs from rooms. President Andrew Jackson threw a huge party in 1829 for his inauguration that got completely out of control. Over 20,000 people crammed into the White House drinking, eating, and destroying furniture and decorations. They tracked mud everywhere, broke expensive china dishes, and stood on fancy chairs with dirty boots. Jackson had to escape through a window because the crowd was crushing him against the walls. Workers put wash tubs full of alcohol on the lawn to lure the drunk crowd outside finally. It took days to clean up the disaster and repair all the damage from the wild party. Security gradually increased over the years after assassination attempts on presidents became more common. Today, visitors need background checks, metal detectors, and scheduled appointments months in advance to tour it. The Oval Office wasn't original. The famous Oval Office didn't exist when the White House was first built in 1800 at all. President William Howard Taft created it in 1909 when he expanded the West Wing significantly. He wanted a unique office space and chose the oval shape based on the Blue Room design. The oval shape comes from the 18th century design trend of having rounded rooms in mansions. Taft's Oval Office was in a different location than where the current one sits today. President Franklin Roosevelt moved it to its current location in 1934 during another renovation project. The office is 35 feet long and 29 feet wide with an 18-foot ceiling above. There are 3 large windows behind the president's desk that overlook the rose garden outside. Every president decorates it differently with their choice of furniture, carpet, drapes, and artwork on walls. President Joe Biden chose a dark blue carpet with the presidential seal woven into the center. The Resolute desk used by many presidents was a gift from Queen Victoria in 1880. It's made from wood taken from a British Arctic exploration ship called the HMS Resolute. It has a movie theater. The White House has a private movie theater that seats 42 people in the East Wing. President Franklin Roosevelt converted a cloakroom into the first screening room in 1942 during World War II. He watched newsreels and propaganda films to keep up with the war happening overseas constantly. President Truman upgraded it with better sound and projection equipment after World War II ended. The current theater was built by President Johnson in 1969 with comfortable red seats, like a real cinema. Presidents can watch any movie they want before it's released to the public in regular theaters. Studios send advance copies of films hoping the president will like them and mention them publicly. President Jimmy Carter watched over 480 movies during his 4 years in office from 1977 to 1981. President Reagan, a former Hollywood actor, loved hosting movie nights for friends and foreign leaders regularly. The theater has state-of-the-art digital projection, surround sound, and a huge screen on the wall. First families often use it for birthday parties and showing kids movies to grandchildren who visit. There are secret tunnels everywhere. A network of secret tunnels connects the White House to other important buildings in Washington, D.C. The main tunnel runs from the White House to the Treasury building next door for emergency evacuations. Another tunnel connects to the Eisenhower Executive Office building where the Vice President has an office. The tunnels were built during the Cold War in the 1950s to protect leaders from nuclear attacks. They're wide enough to drive golf carts through and have lighting and ventilation systems installed. Some tunnels connect to the Metro subway system for emergency transportation across the city quickly. The exact locations and routes are classified top secret by the Secret Service for security reasons. Workers use the tunnels to move supplies, furniture, and equipment without being seen by tourists outside. During bad weather, staff can travel between buildings without going outside in rain or snow. The tunnels also house communications cables, pipes, and electrical wiring for the complex of buildings. Some conspiracy theorists believe the tunnels connect to underground bases miles away from Washington, D.C. The government refuses to confirm or deny most details about the tunnel system for security. 6 presidents never lived there. 6 different presidents never actually lived in the White House during their time in office. George Washington never lived there because it wasn't finished being built before he left office. He chose the location in 1791, but the construction took 9 years to complete after he left. John Adams was the first president to move in on November 1st, 1800, near the end of his presidency. The building was still unfinished with plaster walls that were still wet and workers everywhere. Abigail Adams hung laundry to dry in the unfinished East Room because it was so big. Presidents sometimes lived elsewhere during major renovations that made the White House uninhabitable temporarily. Harry Truman lived across the street at Blair House for nearly 4 years, from 1948 to 1952. The building was literally falling apart and could have collapsed with the first family inside if they stayed. Calvin Coolidge stayed at the Patterson House during roof repairs in the 1920s for several months. During Thomas Jefferson's time, the house was so cold and drafty, he considered moving out permanently. Some presidents complained the White House was uncomfortable, outdated, and poorly designed for modern living standards. It uses 570 gallons of paint. It takes 570 gallons of white paint to completely cover the outside of the White House building. A team of painters works full-time maintaining the exterior walls to keep them looking perfect and bright. The building gets repainted entirely every few years to prevent the paint from fading or peeling. The National Park Service employs professional painters who use special scaffolding to reach high areas safely. Each gallon costs hundreds of dollars because it's a special weather-resistant formula made specifically for the building. The paint has to withstand rain, snow, heat, humidity, and pollution from Washington, D.C. traffic constantly. Painters can only work during good weather conditions when it's not too hot or cold outside. A full repainting job takes several months to complete from start to finish with multiple coats. The original sandstone underneath would quickly deteriorate without the protective paint coating it completely. Paint chips and samples are kept in archives so future painters can match the exact shade. The white color is officially whisper white, though it looks slightly cream colored in certain lighting conditions. Tourists don't realize how much work goes into keeping the building looking pristine and camera ready every day. Slaves built the White House. Enslaved African Americans did most of the hard labor building the White House starting in 1792. They cut stones at quarries in Virginia and Maryland, then transported them to the construction site. Slaves worked alongside free laborers, mixing mortar, laying bricks, and carrying materials in brutal conditions. Records show the government paid slave owners $5 per month for each enslaved person's labor. The slaves themselves received no money at all for their backbreaking work building the president's home. Historian research discovered the names of some enslaved workers through old payment records and documents. Men named Peter, Ben, Daniel, and Harry were among hundreds who built the iconic building. They worked 6 days a week in the heat, cold, rain, and snow without proper food or shelter. Many got sick or injured from the dangerous construction work, but received no medical care. The White House didn't officially acknowledge this history until President Barack Obama mentioned it in 2016. A plaque now recognizes the enslaved workers and free laborers who built the White House together. This dark part of the building's history was hidden and ignored for over 200 years by the government. Today's visitors walk through rooms built by people who were considered property, not human beings at all. It has 5 full-time chefs. The White House employs 5 full-time chefs who cook for the first family and guests every day. The executive chef oversees the entire kitchen staff and plans menus for state dinners and events. The kitchen can prepare food for over 140 guests for formal dinners in the state dining room. They cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the first family based on their personal preferences and dietary needs. The chefs can make almost any cuisine from around the world using ingredients from everywhere imaginable. There's a pastry chef who makes desserts, cakes, cookies, and bread fresh daily in the kitchen. The kitchen has industrial ovens, stoves, refrigerators, and freezers like a restaurant would have installed. Chefs source ingredients from the White House garden, local farms, and specialty suppliers across the country. President Obama's chef, Christetta Comerford, was the first woman to hold the executive chef position starting in 2005. She served 5 presidents over her career, creating thousands of meals for world leaders and celebrities. The chefs prepare food for hundreds of events every year, including holiday parties and receptions constantly. The lawn isn't natural. The perfectly green White House lawn requires an enormous amount of work to maintain year-round constantly. The National Park Service employs a full-time grounds crew of professional gardeners and landscapers daily. They water, mow, fertilize, and treat the grass every single week to keep it looking perfect. The lawn uses thousands of gallons of water every day during the summer to prevent it from dying. Special grass seeds are used that can handle heavy foot traffic from events and tours constantly. The famous Rose Garden was created by First Lady Ellen Wilson in 1913, but redesigned many times. President Kennedy's wife, Jackie Kennedy, redesigned the garden in 1962 with help from famous landscape architects. The garden has over 50 rose bushes representing different varieties from around the world that bloom beautifully. The South Lawn hosts the annual Easter egg roll every year with thousands of children running everywhere. Workers replant damaged grass immediately after events to keep the lawn looking pristine for television cameras. The grounds include trees planted by every president dating back over 100 years as personal traditions. Some trees are over 200 years old and protected as historic landmarks that can't be removed. It survived a plane crash. On September 11, 1994, a stolen Cessna airplane crashed on the White House South Lawn at night. The pilot, Frank Corder, flew from Maryland and crashed into the building at 1:49 a.m. early in the morning. The small plane hit the ground first, then slid into the wall beneath the president's bedroom window. Corder died instantly in the crash, but nobody inside the White House was hurt at all. President Bill Clinton and his family weren't home that night. They were sleeping at Blair House during renovations. The crash punched a hole in the wall and and damaged several windows but didn't cause major structural damage. Secret Service agents rushed outside with guns drawn, thinking it was a terrorist attack on the president. The incident exposed serious security gaps because radar systems didn't detect the small plane approaching at all. After that, the FAA created a no-fly zone around the White House, banning all aircraft completely. Today, the military shoots down any plane that enters restricted airspace without authorization immediately without warning. The crash debris was cleared within hours, and the wall was repaired within days quickly. Security around the White House increased dramatically with more sensors, cameras, and armed guards positioned everywhere constantly. There's a chocolate shop inside. The White House has a chocolate shop in the basement where pastry chefs make custom Chocolates Daily. The shop creates chocolate sculptures, truffles, and desserts for state dinners and special events year-round. During holidays, they make thousands of chocolate treats decorated with the presidential seal on top. The Easter bunny that appears at the Easter egg roll is given chocolate eggs made in the shop. Valentine's Day chocolates are created for the president to give as gifts to the First Lady romantically. The chocolate shop has specialized equipment for tempering chocolate and creating intricate molds and designs. Master chocolatier Bill Yasses worked there for 7 years, creating incredible desserts for Presidents Bush and Obama. He made a chocolate replica of the White House that weighed over 300 pounds for one event. The shop uses the finest Belgian and Swiss chocolate imported from Europe for the best quality possible. First ladies often request special chocolate favors for guests attending formal dinners and receptions regularly. The chocolates are packaged in boxes with the White House seal and given as souvenirs to visitors. Everything is made by hand with incredible attention to detail and artistic presentation that looks too good to eat. Solar panels cover the roof. President Jimmy Carter installed 32 solar panels on the White House roof in 1979 to promote renewable energy. He wanted to show Americans that solar power was the future of energy independence from foreign oil. The panels heated water for the building and reduced electricity costs during his presidency from 1977 to 1981. President Ronald Reagan removed all the solar panels in 1986 during roof repairs and never put them back. He didn't believe in renewable energy and thought solar panels looked ugly on the historic building. The panels sat in storage for years until Unity College in Maine took them in 2008. President George W. Bush installed small solar systems in 2003 for heating water and maintenance areas. President Barack Obama brought solar panels back to the White House roof in 2014, permanently finally. The new system generates over 19,000 kilowatt hours of electricity every year for the building's needs. The panels help reduce the White House's carbon footprint and set an example for the nation. The solar installation cost over $500,000, but saves money on electricity bills every single month. Modern panels are much more efficient than the ones Carter installed 40 years ago for generating power. District. Bonus fact, no one knows all its secrets. Even the Secret Service doesn't know every secret hidden inside the White House from 200 years of history. Rooms have been walled up and forgotten during renovations over the decades without proper records kept. Workers occasionally discover hidden spaces, old tunnels, and mysterious doors that lead to unknown places accidentally. During the 1948 renovation, workers found old wine bottles, newspapers, and artifacts hidden in walls throughout. Some historians believe there are still undiscovered rooms and passages that nobody alive knows about today. The building has been modified so many times that original blueprints don't match the current layout anymore. Presidents have added secret rooms for their own purposes that were never documented in official records. There are rumors of hidden listening devices, secret exits, and surveillance systems throughout the entire complex. The National Archives has thousands of classified documents about the White House that won't be released for decades. Every president adds their own secrets to the building that die with them when they leave office.